Today we are talking about the full moon in Aquarius on July 23rd and how you can eliminate limiting beliefs. And we have all of this plus predictions for all signs coming up. Hi everyone, I'm Donna, your practical astrologer, here to talk to you today about the full moon on July 23rd, and it is going to be at 1 degree of Aquarius. I want to welcome everybody who's joining us today and say thank you so much for your encouraging comments and for your helpful comments too. I appreciate that. Also, if you have a moment, check out my books, and also I do write weekly and monthly columns that appear on astrology.com, horoscope.com, and Conscious Community Magazine, and so there are some links to those in the description box. All right, let's take a look at the chart. So the question we ask ourselves when we see the Aquarius full moon is, what am I breaking free of? So Aquarius is about allowing people and experiences and things to flow into our lives, but then also to flow out. It is not about trying to hold on to every single thing that comes into our lives. Of course, we want to hold on to some things, but when we hold on to too much, we get clutter, weighed down, we can actually get spiritually constipated. And so Aquarius comes along to kind of give us that psyllium husk of spirituality to get things moving again. Aquarius is a really interesting sign because it talks about detachment, but it is a fixed sign, and fixed signs tend to hold on. But it is an air sign also, and so there's the reminder that what we're holding on to is a mental idea, and that once we shift that, then the things that are not beneficial in our lives do just release on their own. They do flow out of our lives. So this is really about detaching from an old pattern of thinking, and that is typified by that statement that I hear so much, which is, I'm the kind of person who, and then it fill in the blank. And of course, if that is, I'm the kind of person who seeks out adventure and grows from new experiences and all of that, wonderful. But oftentimes, when I hear that statement, it'll be the person who says, well, I'm the kind of person who only likes change that I am dictating. Or more specifically, I'm the kind of person who holds on to stuff until I really need to let it go. Or I'm the kind of person who can't give up chocolate. Or I'm the kind of person who keeps a job even if my boss is unlivable. So it is all about how you're defining yourself. And so when this full moon comes along, and the full moon, puts a spotlight on this, it is putting a spotlight on our old thinking patterns and how we may be stuck because of old beliefs. Now, this is different than just old ways of doing things. I like the old traditional ways just as much as everybody. I like this movement towards slow living, and, I bake my own bread. I grow sprouts and vegetables on my balcony. I like the old ways of doing things. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the limiting beliefs that have begun to stagnate inside of us that are creating blocks in our lives. So to identify this limiting belief, of course, we just ask different questions. And so instead of maybe saying, I'm the kind of person who does such and such, we would say, how can I become the kind of person I want to be? And then our brain works on those answers and new opportunities open up. And that's what this full moon is about. A couple more things about this chart. For instance, Jupiter, which is in Pisces in this chart, is going to go back into Aquarius on July 28th. Now, Jupiter is a really interesting planet because we see it as this benefic, like oftentimes Jupiter is associated with fortune and luck, but that's a very limited view of Jupiter, because what Jupiter really is about expanding. And so Jupiter can expand the good things, but it also can expand anything that it touches. And we remember this because Jupiter is the largest planet of the solar system, so of course it rules expansion. So, for example, if Jupiter is going through your first house, the things that it is expanding in your life could be the amount of people that you're meeting, the amount of confidence you exude, your sense of self-assuredness. All of that's great. It can also expand your physical body because first house, it rules the physical body. And so, therefore, oftentimes when people have Jupiter going through the first house, they gain weight. So this is to have you be aware that each planet has positives and negatives. And while in more the traditional thought of Jupiter being a benefic, and Jupiter can be quite helpful at times, it also has this side where it can go overboard and lead you to excess. And then on July 29th, Mars goes from Leo into Virgo. Now, Mars... Let me start with first Mars. What is Mars? Mars is the type of actions that you take. It's not necessarily why you're taking the actions. The why is generally the moon. And so whatever your moon is says, well, I have this emotional need, or I'm afraid, or I want security, or something like this. And so then the moon will reach out to the other planets that it's connected to and say, okay, somebody take action. And Mars is the most likely to take action. We may see, like sometimes people want to talk about something first, and that's a connection to Mercury. Or perhaps they think, oh, everything's going to be really hard and I'm going to have to study this and really work at it. And that's a connection to Saturn. So, but really how you take action and the type of actions you take is related to Mars. And so when Mars is going through Leo, we are big and bold, and we want to take this action that everybody can see. And so we have a few days left of that where we can take the big step, and that might be, contacting somebody who's an influencer and seeing if a collaboration can happen, or, taking the big step to start your business, getting the business plan together, or, approaching the bank actually would be more so because we want the biggest action possible. And then after July 29th, now it's in Virgo, and then we are doing the behind the scenes, now it's, shoulder to the wheel, and we are doing the individual steps to make something happen. And so if you are before July 29th bogged down in, oh, I have to do the spreadsheets and get the pie graphs done and all that, consider waiting on that until after it goes into Virgo and do the bigger things now. So, and then, as it travels through Virgo, you'll actually have more of an interest in getting all of those, those little bits and pieces put together and everything in its place. The other interesting thing about this chart is how many out-of-sign aspects there are. And when I do predictions, I am looking at the aspects that the planets are making. And so when an aspect is out of sign, it is energy that is helpful, but not all that obvious. And so it's kind of like, when you're trying to put together a puzzle, and you think that the piece should fit, and you keep turning it over and turning it over to try to find how it fits. And eventually it does fit, but it is something that takes a little bit more work. It is also the not obvious in the sense of, like, it feels incongruent in a way. Kind of like if you're making a vegan chocolate cake, you might use avocado as a basic ingredient in the frosting or in the cake itself. And of course, we don't normally think of avocado and chocolate cake together, but actually it's delicious. And so this is part of that out of sign energy. So it is the energy of slightly feeling that things are off, but if you work at it a little bit, you get all of the benefits. And so that is that this, in some ways, things are going to take just a tiny bit more effort. And I don't mean to equate this to the semi-sextile, which we will be talking about, because several of you are going to be doing that semi-sextile energy, which is more like the rock in your shoe, and how that rock, if you don't find it, could mean that your entire hike is ruined, or that you just stop and take off your shoe, and maybe it's in your sock and you have to take off your sock, but you are able to deal with it. Whereas this out of sign energy is more about having that odd ingredient and trying that out and having it give you some amazing results. Okay, so that's it for our overview. Let's go sign by sign. Okay, Aries natives, you guys are doing this full moon in your house of friendships, technology, the future, and your community, like groups, organizations, your humanitarian endeavors and things like that. And this is where your breakthrough can happen. And that is, what are your attitudes about friendship, where, of course, they always talk about that you are the sum of the 5 people you hang out with the most. And so this could be a reminder to cultivate those friendships of the people that you admire, that you want to emulate. And we see this the same too with Jupiter going back into Aquarius. So you're going to have several months where you can meet a lot more people, and that's where the luck will be, that you can meet some amazing people or get involved in some amazing groups. Of course, Jupiter also, as we said before, rules this idea of excess. And so the excess can be trying to be a friend to everybody or try to fit into all situations. If you get into a group and even though they've welcomed you and all of that, if you find that it's just not really what you thought it was going to be, or you don't see it helping you in the future, then, back out of it and say, oh, you know what, this, now I have more information, I'm making a different decision. The same thing goes with technology and how much technology you're using. Are you using it mindfully? The Jupiter here says that when it was in Pisces, maybe you were backing off of technology and now you're back on Twitter, multiple times a day or something like that. So that's what this Jupiter's message is. Now we also look at that Mars changing signs for you. And so right now it's going through the house of children, creativity, and taking risks. And of course, we'll talk about the financial risks in a moment. But this is saying that you may be feeling over the next few days like you have to take a risk, that you have to do some big, bold action right away. And so I just want you to be aware of that energy. Yes, you do want to take a bold action, but don't do it in a rushed fashion. You still have some days because it's there till the 29th. And so you can say to yourself, all right, is everything that I have, am I ready? Have I read the paperwork? Have I really looked through things? And then as it transitions into Virgo, then the focus shifts to what are my daily routines that are helping me? Do I have a good morning ritual? If you have trouble sleeping, oftentimes they say that having an evening ritual can be really helpful. What about eating habits and getting exercise in every day and that sort of thing? So that's where that shift is going to be for you. When it comes to your relationships, you are doing an out of sign conjunction with Venus and Mars. Of course, Mars is going to go into Virgo, but Venus is a quick planet, and so it's going to get farther and farther away. So there is this energy that when it comes to relationships, that something that is not so obvious can happen. That is, perhaps somebody who's not necessarily your type comes along, and if you give them a chance, it can be an amazing relationship. Or perhaps there has been some misunderstandings in the past, but as you slow down and listen to each other, that can get cleared up. So the potential for great relationships over the next couple of weeks is wonderful. It's great. How many times can I say great? But the problem is, because it's an out of sign conjunction, it's not as obvious. And so you have to be a little bit more mindful and watchful to find that benefit. When it comes to your home life, you are pulling energy from that full moon in Aquarius, and that means that you're probably having more people over, you're probably welcoming your friends back, you're being more social. It is also that you may be getting involved in community organizations, looking at doing a community garden or beautification things or things like that, neighborhood watch, etc. So there is both, that you're welcoming the world into your home, but also that you are being aware that your home encompasses more than just the dwelling itself. When it comes to your money, of course, you have Uranus in Taurus going through that second house, as I will continue to tell you for a very long time. But the interesting thing about this time is that Uranus does rule Aquarius, and this is the Aquarius full moon. And so your Uranus, the Uranus is activated more, and it's in your house of money. This does mean that there are some money opportunities that are springing up. Now, Uranus, by its nature, is sudden and unexpected, and so this is about giving yourself the time to notice what's around you, not to be on such a treadmill that any new opportunity that comes along you just push aside because you're too busy. Now, additionally, what we see here, and maybe less in harmony to that, is, of course, that you are pulling money from that Venus that is in Virgo, going through this area of, getting everything straight and in order, finding a way to organize things, getting into a solid routine. And this Venus, technically making an inconjunct to that moon, that's not necessarily affecting your money in a negative way, but what it says is that you can have the blinders on when it comes to new opportunities because you're so caught up in your routine. And so it is about, like slowing down a little bit and looking around and asking yourself those important questions of, is there a different way that I could be making money through this? Is there an easier way to make money? Do I have to do things this way? And so I think that you will have some great money opportunities this time. When it comes to your money that comes from investments, more traditional investments, I should say, as well as your own business, Venus is not making an aspect to Pluto, but it is making that out of sign conjunction with Mars. And so it does say that there are some money-making opportunities for you. Again, back to that out of sign idea where it's not as obvious. And so this is that, perhaps there is a business opportunity, but you have to think of things a little bit differently, maybe to target a different market or maybe change up how you are marketing your business. When it comes to your investments, I was going to say investing and investments as one word. Yes, speaking. I do it for a living, but it's so challenging. When it comes to your investments, perhaps it is that you just need to look at your investments and see if something needs a change. See if you should be taking profits in some areas or if you want to expand your position in some areas. When it comes to money derived from career, you are doing that moon and Saturn in that house. And this is, of course, that full moon of change and, breaking out of a rut and etc. So that right there tells us that something may be going on when it comes to your job that is not going to bring you the prosperity that you were hoping for. And this is emphasized by the fact that Venus is not making an aspect to Uranus. And so it is possibly time for you to be looking at what kind of changes you can make so that you are not stuck in a situation for a long time where you've been promised that you're going to make more money, but it never manifests. And when it comes to risky investments, and this is, you starting your own business by doing a business plan and going to a bank and asking for money, or that you are doing something that takes an awful lot of time to get going, like writing screenplays or something like that, you are doing an aspect, and that is Venus semi-sextile the Sun. Of course, the Sun and Mars, at least for a few days, will be in that house. So you do show an opportunity to take bold action. Now, it is a semi-sextile, so it's a bit out of your comfort zone. I mean, not hugely out of your comfort zone, but just enough to get you to say, I'll put that off till tomorrow. So try not to do that. Try to take that action, even if you feel not entirely ready, not entirely confident. And that is not that I'm suggesting that you don't sign on the dotted line and give them all your money or something like that. But take a few steps forward on it, tentatively to see, if it's solid enough under your feet to continue to do so. Okay, Taurus natives, you guys are doing this full moon in your house of career, reputation, and how the world sees you. And so this is where you could have a breakthrough, basically your ideas about what kind of career you want to have or feel that you have to have, what kind of jobs you apply for and what holds you back from applying for jobs. Maybe you're afraid they're going to say no, or you're afraid they're going to say you're not qualified, but they may, oftentimes in a job, yes, qualifications do play a role, but most of the time people want someone where they fit together, where there is a connection with that person. And so oftentimes it is more about your chart and your chart connections to the manager or to the team than it is about your qualifications, because most of the jobs that we think about these days, most of them are about training on the job, not so much the training that you might have had in school, brain surgery aside, of course. Additionally, all of this energy gets a big boost when Jupiter goes back into Aquarius, and so you'll have a couple of months where you are needing to really look and see if putting yourself into your current career full force is the thing to do, or whether you should be looking around and making a change. So when we look at the Mars and look at where your action is shifting, it's interesting because you are shifting from home and family and very focused on, maybe unpacking from a move or maybe deciding whether you're going to stay in your current place or not, to moving into something where you are more concerned about what you're creating and risks that you're taking. So you may be looking more at, work-life balance, how can I have more joy in my days? How can I spend more time with my kids? How can we expand the family? Things like that is going to be what you're working on. So you have a few more days left to make the big decisions about your dwelling, about home, about, any sort of real estate deals that you're thinking about making. You don't have to take the action necessarily. I say that, but part of me thinks yes, but I know that the real estate market is not ideal by any stretch of the imagination, so I can completely understand why you may want to wait. But so this might be more of a decision point where you just say, when the market does become in my favor, I will take action to buy a house or an apartment building or whatever. When it comes to relationships, Venus is not making an aspect to Pluto, but it is making an out-of-sign conjunction with Mars. And so just like we were talking about that out-of-sign, and if you skip that part in the intro, you might want to go back and listen to that part. It does say that there are some big opportunities. They're just not going to be as obvious. And so this might mean that you are dating someone who's not necessarily your type, or that you are moving much slower getting into the relationship or much faster than usual. And so something is different. And as you are aware of that, then lucky things can happen. And then when it comes to home and family, of course, we were just talking about you making that decision in the next few days about whether you're staying in this place, whether you're leaving, whether you are going to have new roommates, how you're going to be when your kids leave the house, etc. The sun is also there, and so that's shining a big spotlight on your house. And so you might be thinking of doing some renovations or just, some, extra upkeep. So you might be thinking about doing a little feng shui, which, by the way, I have a ton of videos. I don't know about a ton of videos. I have a lot of videos on feng shui and different things you can do to bring in more prosperity, love, health, all that type of energy. And so you might want to check those out. With this spotlight on the house, again, it just gives you the opportunity that if you can take a break from your busy routine, then the universe will show you what needs to change and what the benefits are that are coming to you that you can grab hold of. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Mercury in your house of communications, which could indicate that you are going to get a contract or agreement that could lead to some money. It also could mean that the more you communicate, the more money you make. And so this could be you being in sales or marketing yourself. It's interesting because Mercury is making a trine to Neptune in this chart, which is in a money house, which we'll talk about more in a second. But just from this pulling money standpoint, what this means is first do the magical thing, first do the spiritual thing. And that is, before you pick up the phone to talk to somebody, do a prayer or a meditation or a visualization that everything's going to work out. Before you sign a contract, ask the universe to bring you some, like a guardian angel that's a lawyer, to help you spot what you need to spot. So start your process when it comes to money with doing that spiritual action. When it comes to money from your business or more traditional investments, Mercury is not making an aspect with Jupiter. And so we do see that while you are working hard and you're doing lots, you're making about the same as usual. And this also could be because so much is transitioning that maybe you are working behind the scenes more, getting a new program ready, launching a new marketing campaign, or perhaps with investments, you're just taking a wait and see attitude for now. So, and that's probably what you need to do while all these, out of sign things are changing, Mars changing signs, Jupiter changing signs. It's just kind of wait till the storm is past, and that's a storm out in the world, not necessarily in your life. Just, this is what Taurus does well, is just wait it out and then see after the dust settles what you should do. Now, when it does come to money derived from career, you are doing an aspect, and that is that Mercury is making a trine to Neptune, which does say that you can ask for more money and get some positive response from your boss. And this could be that you are saying to your boss, I'm going to go find something else if I can't make more money here. It also could mean that because of the increased communication that you are having a better commission check, or that you're making more sales in general. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and this is the things that are very exotic investments, things like the Bitcoins and stuff like that out in the world, Venus is now in this house, and Venus is kind of, I want what I want and I want it right now sort of energy. And so you might feel like even though maybe the numbers don't add up, or you don't have all the information, or you haven't really done the spreadsheets on it, you just want it. And so this can cause you to jump into something prematurely, or feel like, that you just want it, and so you're going to do it, whether it's going to go up or down. And just be aware if you're going to take an action like that. Because overall, Venus is beneficial. However, it is not making an aspect with Mercury that rules your finances. And so, again, there's more of a sense of I own it rather than I'm profiting from it. Okay, Gemini natives, you guys are doing this full moon in your house of education, travel, belief systems, legal matters. It's really, and of course, writing, teaching, publishing, things like that. So this is about breaking free, perhaps of a writer's block, or some sort of idea that you have that because you don't have a framed piece of paper on your wall from a university, that you can't apply for certain jobs, or you can't go to certain directions, or that you're just less in some way. This is breaking free of limiting beliefs in these areas, or maybe the idea that you really want to travel but you are afraid, and so it is time to look at what is really stopping you. Is it the ideas of what the media says is going on in other countries? And maybe you could just reach out and meet some people in that country and see how their experience is, because sometimes the media just likes the dramatic story. And of course, Jupiter is going back into that house, bringing you lots of opportunities. If you want to get published, if you do want to travel, if you want to, find some way to get into school and find people to pay for it. So you have a lot of opportunities over the next few months, and this will start that process. So you want to really stop for a second and say, where are my limiting beliefs? Where am I holding myself back, so that you can have a breakthrough? Now, we have an interesting energy with the Mars, which is changing signs, and it is in that house of communication where it is like talking about, I'm going to stop doing this, I'm going to let go of that. And then it crosses into the 4th house, which actually is the house of endings. And so this is where you stop being all talk and you start to do something about it. And so this could be, what you're saying, I'm going to, stop watching so much TV, or I'm going to stop eating sugar, or I'm going to stop thinking about this love relationship that never worked out in my past. So this is the point where you can actually stop doing something, and that from that you gain some benefits. When it comes to relationships, Mercury's not making an aspect with Jupiter, so I really feel that your focus is just elsewhere. So if you were really thinking, okay, I'm going to go out with a lot of new people, or I'm going to really work on my love relationship, it is kind of getting shifted to the back burner because other things are going on. And I think that that's okay. I mean, it's perfectly okay for you to look at, maybe composing some things to say in your relationship, or, rewriting your profile. That would be good use of that Mars in Leo, as well as the Sun going through your house of communication. But it is also, though, not to be the highest priority for you this time. In a couple of weeks, all this energy will shift and it could become the highest priority. But right now, it is more that other things need your attention. When it comes to your home life, you are pulling energy from that Mercury in your house of money. So you may be spending a little money on the house, maybe to do some renovations or just to, redecorate a little bit. It's possible that you are assessing your home's value to see if it's time to sell, or you're looking to rent something or buy something and you're looking at the prices and, like most of my clients, probably fainting dead away because the prices are kind of insane right now. So it is, yes, I know that's, that's really hard. Sorry. Venus is going through this house now, so it is actually probably the happier parts of what I said. Hopefully I said something happy there. The redecorating part, the having people over, the feeling really comfortable at home, noticing that the garden is blooming and things like that. So you're not doing bad energy here, but your focus is more on the financial side of your home rather than other things. Now, when it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that moon in your 9th house, which means that you are having opportunities with import-export or people who live far away. There are some money opportunities related to legal matters, and this could mean that you could get a certification for a certain profession or get licensed, or that perhaps you're in a lawsuit, and so you're working that direction. But it also says that you can get paid for what you know, and that is maybe, putting together a video course, publishing a book, or teaching. And so money opportunities could be coming from all these different sources. And because we're doing this energy of looking at things differently, it might be very beneficial to go after a money opportunity you haven't done in a while. When it comes to money from your business, family business, or from traditional investments, the moon is not making an aspect to Saturn. And so everything is just moving along. I expect you to make it about the same as usual, but not much more, because there is a lot of emphasis on doing other things right now. And so this is not where your attention is. That's number one. But secondly, because of the fixed nature of the moon in Aquarius, you may just recognize that it is time at the moment not to take any sort of action in that direction. So it might be that you went into these investments with a buy and hold attitude, and so you're continuing that. Or even if you were thinking that you were going to get out of an investment position early, you're not doing it because you sense that it's not the right time yet. So I feel like this is still beneficial energy, but it's not the most profitable energy. When it comes to money derived from career, the moon is making an out of sign inconjunct with Mars. And that means that the energy is going to be a little bit elusive. And so, if we were to think about that, how that could manifest, it could be that your boss says, yes, a raise is available, but you do have to, take on some added responsibility, or you have to change titles, or maybe you're stuck at a level because you're at the top of your pay grade and you have to make a shift before you can make more money. So there's something that's a little less obvious, not necessarily bad or difficult, it's just not as clear. And so maybe you have to say to your boss, if the boss says no, perhaps, maybe you say, well, let's put our heads together and figure out how we can make this work. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the ones that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, you're doing an inconjunct between the moon and Venus. Now, this to me feels like either there's something in the contract that's not right, that you need to see if that provision can be eliminated or at least modified in some way, or you're ready to sign the contract, but there are family members who are thinking this is not a good idea. And so what we're seeing here is a potential to make something happen, but adjustments have to happen, either the changes in the contract or to win over the family members. And because it's not so much that you are just saying to the family, I'm not going to listen to you. It's perhaps that they are instrumental in you moving forward, and so you need their agreement. And so this is about finding a way that both of you have to give up something so that everybody can come together to build something better. Okay, Cancer natives, you guys are doing this full moon in your house of resources from others, also intimacy, and where you experience a sense of power or lack thereof. And so, but when we look at resources, this is where you could have limiting beliefs that are causing you to hold yourself back. And so this can be ideas of, not being able to understand investments, or that you want your own business, but you feel like you need to go to school for that, or things that are holding you back that are actually trying to protect you. I mean, all the time when we have these limiting beliefs, it is to protect ourselves. But the problem can happen, and which is illustrated by the Cancer sign, is that sometimes we can grow bigger than the shell that we have allows for, and so we need to break free. And so now you have this Aquarius energy there. Well, you always have the Aquarius energy there, but now you have the moon, the full moon there, lighting up this house to remind you to look at where you're limiting yourself. It's interesting that Jupiter will be going back into this house, bringing you financial opportunities for a couple of months. And that means that, the investment opportunity is there, but also the person who can help you figure it out, or the business opportunity, the idea that you have may be brilliant. And now you can find somebody to work with who will either help you fund the business or who will work side by side with you. So use this Jupiter energy to benefit yourself. Now, of course, the Jupiter, when we look at the excesses, it can go overboard. It's not necessary to borrow millions of dollars to get a business going. Well, of course, that depends on the business, but for most of us, we don't need that. So look at what you really do need, because the universe is opening up and giving you some opportunities. Now, Mars is actually in an interesting place because it is moving out of a money house into your house of communication. But I feel like this allows you to take some actions about money over the next few days and then shift into a time where you're looking more at marketing, more at communicating, maybe with your clients or customers or relationships, all of that. And also that's going to be the time where you're actually getting written agreements done, where you are actually signing contracts and things like that. When it comes to relationships, love relationships, the moon is not making an aspect with Saturn. Additionally, the moon and Saturn are in your house of intimacy. And so I think this is going to bring you an opportunity to have that discussion with someone. Maybe you're in a relationship with somebody who wants to move the relationship forward more quickly than you do, or perhaps you're wanting to move it forward. I see more discussion going on about that than actual any resolution yet. I think, though, that when Mars gets into your house of communication, that's going to facilitate that. But in the meantime, I think that most of your attention, because of this full moon, is less on relationships and more on money, because the sun is in your house of money and the moon is in the house of resources. When it comes to your home life, you're pulling energy from that Venus in your house of neighborhoods. And so there's a sense that you're now out of the house, that you are now looking at the neighborhood, deciding, one, if some changes need to happen. Does the neighborhood need to come back to life? Are you thinking about going to neighborhood restaurants or frequenting neighborhood businesses, but also, reintroducing yourself to your neighbors, or maybe you have to have a discussion with a neighbor about where they put their trash cans or things like that. So this is the energy that we're seeing, is more you're out of the house, maybe in your front yard, maybe just in your backyard, but you're moving into a bigger sense of dwelling. When it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that sun in your house of money. So that is why I said that relationships may not be your top most important thing right now, because you have your entire money house lit up. And this can be that you are taking action to get out of debt, to find new income sources. And, the universe is shining a big spotlight on this while bringing Jupiter back into a place where you can get more from others, where you can find resources. Now, the interesting thing about having the sun going through your house of money, which happens once a year, is if it is a chance for you to look at how you handle your money and compare that to how you see yourself. If you see yourself as a responsible person with high integrity and all that, but you're just spending your money willy-nilly, you have some discordant energy here. And so this is your opportunity to take the best parts of you and apply it to how you deal with your money. Now, when it comes to money that is from traditional investments or residual marketing, affiliate marketing, or money from your business, you're making about the same as usual, because the sun is not making an aspect with Uranus, and it's not making an aspect to Saturn either. And because the moon and Saturn are in your 8th house, you're being more prudent. You are more building a foundation. You're more considering what is the more important things. Should I build a relationship long term with a customer where I might not make so much in the short term, but overall in the lifetime of this customer is going to make me lots? I think there is much more long-term thinking going on, which I think is very beneficial. So you're making about the same as usual, and I think that the bigger profits are going to come later. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, you are doing a semi-sextile between the sun and Venus, which does mean that you have an opportunity to get some sort of increase. There are some strings attached. A semi-sextile is not the most comfortable of energies. I talked about that in the introduction. If you want to go, if you didn't listen to that, you can go back to that. But this is more about you having to do something that's just slightly outside your comfort zone, or perhaps needs some additional negotiation before you can have it happen. And it's possible it just is some sort of delay, that they say, yes, we are going to give you a raise, but it's like 6 months out or something like that. It is something that it's possible. In fact, because you're doing an aspect, it's more probable that you can achieve something in this area. It just takes a little extra work. When it comes to riskier investments, and these are the investments that are more exotic things or highly leveraged, or things that would, you'd have to explain to your grandpa or something like that. The sun is making an out-of-sign opposition to Pluto and an out-of-sign semi-sextile to Mars, so you have energy of a connection happening. However, they are these out-of-sign placements, of which we talked about in the introduction, and so there these are not going to be the most obvious opportunities. There's going to be something where you're going to have to take something that feels a little like out of place, and it's going to fit. It is the puzzle piece it is the puzzle piece that doesn't look like it can work, but it does. So there is opportunities here. The Mars is making that change of signs, and so that could reveal what this is. I think that you, over the 2-week period, you could make some real beneficial you could grab hold of something quite beneficial for yourself. You could make some profits, but I think that it's just going to take some mindfulness, some awareness of how this is not appearing so obvious. Okay, Leo natives, you guys are doing this full moon in your house of relationships, and so relationships are definitely highlighted for you. That means that there are lots of relationship opportunities for if you're looking for love, if you are looking for a committed relationship, if you are looking for friendships and connections. But this moon in Aquarius is about looking at your personal attitudes also about this, whether you are doing some limiting beliefs about relationships in general, like saying all the good ones are taken, or, I have to, lose this much weight before someone will notice me, or any of these things that stop you from reaching out to people and connecting with people. And so it is about doing two things simultaneously, which, can be challenging, which is first saying to yourself, how am I limiting myself? Oftentimes I find with clients that once we have identified the block and they have said, all right, I'm going to let go of this, the amount of dates and opportunities they get just goes up exponentially, because all of those people were waiting by the door, but the client had blinders on because of the limiting beliefs. And then the second part of this is just, I don't remember the second part because I was talking so much. Now, all of this is facilitated by Jupiter coming back into that house, which could do both cause you to meet a whole bunch of new people, which is fantastic. That's great. But it also could bring some people from your past. And if those people were challenging and they haven't grown, and you're just going to get into that same old pattern, that's where the Jupiter could be excessive and not be so helpful. So when it comes to relationships, you may want to focus on either meeting new people or looking at the reasons, the emotional blocks that you had to making that relationship from the past work. Now, the Mars is shifting from your own sign of Leo into your house of money. And so your energy, your focus is going to shift from, wanting relationship and connecting with people and all of that pretty soon into, hey, where's the money? And so this is something to keep in mind that, if you are, starting out like, I'm going to meet a lot of people, but I'm going to do it next week and all that, you're going to find that you're more interested in actually going after money opportunities then. So now's the time to take the bold action when it comes to asking somebody out or sitting down with your sweetheart and talking about moving the relationship forward or something like that. Now, when it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Mercury that is hidden in your 12th house. And oftentimes this is where a person just says, you know what, I'm just going to let the money take care of itself. And so it's almost like you're forgetting about watching your budget or, actually visualizing money coming to you or, pursuing money opportunities. Now, all of this, of course, will change when Mars gets in there, but that can actually cause you some frustration in the sense that you are trying to get money at the same time, trying to not think about it so much. So how you can really use this energy is to convert that Mercury instead of, not wanting to think about into the magical or spiritual side of that Mercury. And that is to refresh your feng shui cures, to add some money magic, like maybe burn a money candle or use some like essential oils that are associated with money. There are lots of prosperity blends out there, like putting it on the soles of your feet so that you walk a money path. Also, of course, doing the basic things like visualization for money opportunities, asking yourself those important questions like, how can I make an extra $500 today? Things like that will cause you to get the mindset and that magical part that will free that Mercury up from your hidden house. I should also mention here that Venus is going through your house of money, and this can cause some excess spending because Venus wants what it wants, and it wants it right now. And so you might be finding that not only are you not paying attention to the money you're bringing in, that a lot of money is going out. So that's just something to be aware of, because if Venus decides that you want to keep all the shiny pennies for yourself, well, then you start to accumulate money. Now, when it comes to money from investments, traditional types of investments, as well as money from a family business or your own business, Mercury is making the trine to Neptune, which is really good energy. Jupiter is leaving that house, so some of the protection is going away. And by protection, again, that is protection from extreme situations. That doesn't necessarily mean you win the lottery. It just means you're not hit by a bus on your way to cash the ticket. So it's, boy, that's a really extreme example. Sorry for that graphic picture. So this is more that I see you have an ability to accumulate money, but this is going to require, again, that spiritual touch where you are getting in harmony with the energy that facilitates this. And so everything in the world has a vibration, and this is where you are able to put yourself into that vibration. And you do that by, again, welcoming the energy, asking yourself those good questions. How can I find good investments? How can I find good customers, etc.? So overall, I do see there's quite a possibility of accumulating more money through your business or investments this period. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, now that energy is solidly in that 12th house of working behind the scenes. So what's going to be important is to speak up if you want to raise. It is likely that especially if you're working at home, but that you're working behind the closed door of your office, that your boss isn't really seeing your contribution. And of course, like most bosses, they're not going to give you a raise unless you ask for it. And so therefore, this is what you would need to do. And while Mercury is going through your 12th house, it's challenging to do. So while I do think that this is generally positive energy, it's not strong enough to get you the raise this time. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and this would be things like selling a business or, building a franchise or something like that, Mercury is not making an aspect with Jupiter. And of course, Mercury is buried in your hidden house. And so there is so many things working against you right now that if I was you, I would just say, you want to just cool your heels for a couple of weeks. And that is, if you're already in the investment, just keep working the business as you've been doing. But if you are on the verge of signing, you might want to just put the pen down and take a breath, really review the contract or continue your negotiations, because something's not quite right yet. Okay, Virgo natives, you guys are doing this full moon in your house of routines, health and well-being, as well as work. And so this is where you can be challenging those limiting beliefs and have a breakthrough. And this is, what are your attitudes about, habits, and can a habit be changed? It's also about, asking yourself the question about, what you want your daily life to be. I remember there was a book so long ago by Helen Gurley Brown, who I think she was the editor of Cosmo. I think she was the first editor of Cosmopolitan magazine. And so, but what she said was that she had designed her perfect day. And, at the time I read it, I had never heard that concept before. I thought it was amazing. Of course, now this is a more common concept, but it is so true that we are actually designing our days every single day by the choices that we make. And as we make different choices, the design of our day changes. And so that's the opportunity that you have here. And you, as a Virgo, or Virgo rising, I should say, have a more of an ability to do this than most signs, because Virgo does have this ability to change things incrementally. And so now that energy is highlighted for you. Now, at the same time, of course, Jupiter is coming back into that house, and that does mean that there is more luck and opportunities coming to you. And so the protection that Jupiter does when it goes through a house of health is it can bring you the right professional to help you. And so that can be, traditional medicine, alternative medicine, but somebody's there who has the answer. And so that's some of the thing that this Jupiter is bringing. Or it brings you information about changing habits, or it brings some relief from difficult coworkers or things like that. So we also see the Mars coming from a position of being on the horizon in your chart, extremely noticeable, extremely visible, and popping into your first house, which then puts the attention on you. So it's almost like you are working behind the scenes, but doing a lot. And yet it's not necessarily seen by others until it crosses into your first house, crosses into Virgo, and then suddenly everybody sees it. And so if you have some projects that you've been trying to finish, maybe you're even running behind, it's time to devote energy to finishing, because soon all eyes are going to be on you and say, hey, where is this? Now, on the positive side, Mars at this position confers a lot of energy to you, so you will have more energy to do this. The Venus, however, right on your ascendant, I shouldn't say even ascendant because it's a solar chart. The Venus right there that is in your own sign is saying, I just want to relax, I just want to take it easy. And that's where the little bit of a struggle can be. Now, when it comes to relationships, you're doing extraordinary energy this time, because we have Venus and Mars on one side and Jupiter on the other, bringing you more opportunities for a love relationship or to have an improved relationship with your sweetheart than you've had in a long time. Additionally, Mercury is making a trine to Neptune, so we have everything coming together. So if you've been on the fence about doing online dating or going out with a person your cousin's trying to fix you up with or something like that, take the chance, because this is the best energy I've seen for you all year. Now, that's not to say you're not going to get good energy again. Of course you are. Jupiter is going to cross into your 7th house again. When a planet crosses into a new sign, it is so noticeable, and the energy shifts in a way that can get you noticed. And so now you have an opportunity. You don't want to miss it. Now, when it comes to your home life, you are pulling energy from that Jupiter, which we've been talking about. And so now this whole energy of maybe you're dating someone, but your family doesn't really approve, but now you can get them to soften up about this and have a discussion. This is also that maybe you are introducing your sweetheart for the first time to friends and family. Maybe you're moving in together, and so that is creating a bigger family. So we have a lot of positive energy that is connecting relationships with home and family. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Venus in the first house in your own sign. And that is that as you exude confidence, as you say to the world, here I am, you make more money. Now, this is not the natural state for Virgo or Virgo rising to do. You tend to take more of a behind the scenes sort of approach to things. But now is time to step forward and say, here I am. And so that is to put your name on your reports, or to announce to the meeting that, yes, I did this, or I led this team. Use a lot of I words. That would be really good here. And that will bring you more money. When it comes to money that comes from a business or more traditional investments or things like royalties or residuals or things like that, you're doing an out of sign conjunction between Venus and Mars, and that means that there are some great opportunities for you. They're not the most obvious, and I talked about this in the introduction, so you can go back and hear that stuff about the out of sign, but this is about being very mindful, kind of taking a breath and saying, where is the money? There's money on the table somewhere, and it's just not in the most obvious place. Like, it's not at your place setting, but it's also not claimed by somebody else. And so this is your opportunity to spot it and bring it to you. But that first starts with you saying, how can I make more money every day? Or how can I get my annual income to be my monthly income? Or something like that. To say to yourself, through questions, please be open and look and see where this money is. Now, when it comes to income from career, the moon is making an inconjunct to your Venus, and so that means that that making more money is definitely possible, but it's going to require some adjustments. Either you have to get your boss to adjust, in other words, they're saying no and you get them to say yes, or they are asking you to do something that you didn't really necessarily want to do, but if you do that, you will get more money. And so there's some sort of compromise needed. And of course, the best compromise would be a compromise on both sides, where you say you'll work maybe a slightly different shift, or you'll work with that person you don't really care about so much, and then they will give you more money. So, finding that middle ground. But because you're doing an aspect, you can go ahead and ask for more money or ask for a better commission schedule. If you want, you can wait and see if this energy lines up better later, which it probably will, but it still could be months away. And so therefore, if you are feeling like this is important to you now, go ahead and ask. When it comes to risky investments, and we count these as things that take a lot of time, energy, and money to get going, or they're just really odd investments, like, I don't know, investing in your friend's sneaker business or something like that. You are not doing an aspect between Venus and Saturn, and so the energy is definitely off. The timing is off. The things that you want and the things that this business could bring you are not compatible. And so this is my word to say, be really cautious. What's necessary at this time is for you to do a lot more research. What appears to be something that looks easy and fun is actually not. It's actually, there's something that is hidden that is not so good. So you really want to explore this before you go forward. Okay, Libranados, you guys are doing this full moon in your house of romance, enjoyment, risky investments, taking chances, speculation, gambling, and your kids. And so we could start with the kids part, which, we don't actually discuss kids too much on this channel because, I think that focusing on you is more important. And if you have questions about what your kids are doing, you should look at your kids' charts. So, but this is about that perhaps you have some concerns about what choices your children are making. And so this is possibly causing you some limiting beliefs in, that it's your limiting belief because of the choices your kids are making. That was a long way to get to that short little sentence. Of course, the most prominent example that comes up with my clients is when they have a kid who is exploring their gender identity and the parents are, in a word, freaking out. That's technically 2 words, but yes, they're freaking out. And, especially when they're pushing back on using different pronouns. And so I saw this amazing TED Talk about how language changes. And, we're so used to language changing. We use new words all the time, and we call different things different words. And, this has happened throughout our lifetimes and throughout the generations. And so it was so interesting how pronouns change also, and I didn't know this. And so this this is just another language shift. That's all it is. And we, when we're feeling like, oh, how am I going to remember to say the right pronoun? We'll figure it out. So anyway, I think I'm digressing here. What this is about when it comes to your kids is looking at your own limiting beliefs, at what your kids are doing or the choices they're making, and challenging your beliefs before you challenge them. Now, additionally, of course, this moon is lighting up this area of where you are limiting yourself when it comes to romance, when it comes to enjoying yourself, and where it comes to taking on more risk when you are, investing in yourself or investing in a business. So this is, first to ask yourself, if you've been working really, really hard, like, what do you find fun? And reminding yourself that it is okay to have some fun, and not necessarily just watching a screen, but actually doing things. Additionally, it is about looking at your risk tolerance. This is a big thing in investing, of course. People are always... companies are always asking what your risk tolerance is. At least they used to. I don't know about some of these new apps. I think that they aren't really questioning people about this, but I don't know this for sure. But it certainly was in the past that your risk tolerance was kind of the guidepost for what kind of investments you would do. And so looking at whether you become more conservative when it comes to risk, or more able to take chances, and some of that is due to the amount of resources that you have available to you, and also how much you're trusting yourself. So, and this is not to say that if you have a low risk tolerance that you don't trust yourself. I mean that you do. You know yourself, and you know that you're not going to put yourself into a place where you're going to worry all night. So I think that this is what this full moon is doing. And of course, the Jupiter is coming back to bring you some sort of opportunity from the past. And that could be that there was a risky investment you were considering. And so maybe that is coming back. We'll talk about more about that in a second. But it also is maybe you asking yourself, like, I was having more fun before, I was dating, I was doing fun things, and so how can I bring that into my life again? Now, when we look at the Mars is moving from your house of friendships into that hidden house, or that house that rules psychic ability, but also the shadow self. And so what happens is the activities become a little bit more solitary. You have things to work on for yourself, and so maybe these are exploring the inner you, doing self-growth, or maybe it's just, taking care of the house, reorganize, decluttering, and things like that. So I find that when Mars goes through this house for people, that they gain a lot of energy. They suddenly feel like a little Energizer bunny, and they're just doing everything, like ticking things off of the to-do list and all that. But it's also a good time to add meditation, or Tai Chi, or yoga, or some sort of meditative practice into your life, because that can really help your inner self grow. When it comes to relationships, you are doing some good energy because you are doing an out of sign conjunction with Venus and Mars. However, it's in a house that is a little bit more hidden. And so this might indicate that your relationship is secret for some reason. And this could be that you are dating somebody at work and you just don't want to make an announcement, or perhaps this person or somebody is not completely available for a relationship, and yet you seem to be getting into it anyway. And it's also possible that it's just really low key and it's not the biggest thing in your life right now, and so you're seeing this person when you can, but most of the time you're busy. So when it comes to home and family, of course, you're pulling energy from that Saturn, and the Saturn is still putting a lot of emphasis on what's going on with your kids and, what you're doing creatively. So there's still a lot of focus on that. There was a recent connection in not this period, but the previous period, where Saturn was making a trine to the North Node. So you may have made some sort of life decision, and now you're just working on that. This is positive energy. You're still carrying that positive energy, so I expect good things are happening, but there is an awful lot of focus on your kids, or basically whatever you're creating or producing into the world. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Pluto in your house of family, so family businesses, of course, real estate, owning property. Also, looking at what you can eliminate that will bring you more money. That's a good thing that Pluto does. Looking at whether you still need, 14 streaming services, maybe you can get along with less and stuff like that. It is also pulling money from that Mars, which is changing signs, which means that some opportunity is available to you because the change makes it noticeable. Now, that Mars will go into the 12th house, and during that period, you do want to look at how you are putting yourself in harmony with money energy through spiritual means, and that is maybe doing affirmations or maybe visualizations, perhaps doing some feng shui or things like that to bring in more prosperity. When it comes to business income or income from more passive sources like traditional investments or things like that, the Pluto is not making an aspect to Venus, but Mars is. So there is an out of sign aspect happening, and that means that the opportunity is there, but it's not very obvious. And so it is more that perhaps you're still doing traditional investments, but there are traditional investments you haven't considered. Maybe you're all, mutual funds, and you find that ETFs are pretty reasonable, or you might even go into bonds like municipal bonds or something like that, something quite traditional. And the same goes with your business. Perhaps, you've been so focused on cultivating new clients, but you find there's a little gold mine in getting your existing clients to refer new clients to you, etc. So there is an opportunity. It's not as obvious, but it's definitely something you can spot and take hold of. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, you have a good house here because the sun's there and Mars is there for at least a few days. Now, Pluto is not making an aspect with the sun, but Mars is making a semi-sextile to the sun. So what starts out as feeling pretty strong actually is something that if you can do kind of like a thing that pulls you out of your comfort zone a little bit, like asking for a raise might pull you out of your comfort zone, or just, tooting your own horn a little bit can bring you some opportunities. But if you don't, that opportunity passes you by. So that's the key here. The sun's there lighting up this house, which may cause you to feel like you're underpaid, that you're underappreciated, etc. And then comes along this semi-sextile, which says, oh, now I have to ask for something rather than just being awarded it. And companies just don't do that anymore. They don't offer to give you money unless you ask. And so here is your opportunity to ask, and then the positive energy of the aspect happens. So when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, this is a challenging area for you right now because the moon is going through there, lighting this up, showing you where maybe limiting beliefs or maybe your own hesitation has caused some problems. Maybe you didn't feel confident enough to negotiate the contract that you really wanted, and now you're in a little battle about it. So the energy is really not lined up for you right now. Pluto is not making an aspect to Saturn or Uranus. Mars is not making an aspect to Saturn or Uranus. So everything is out of sync. So I would say just cool your heels. Do not move forward on things if at all possible. If you are in some sort of investment right now, it is best to kind of just work the problem, because a solution will come. There will be great opportunities in the future. And, just By the way your chart lines up in general for risky investments is you will have very long periods where it is amazing, like everything just comes together and all the other signs are envious of this energy. And then you will have long periods where things don't work. And so you're in one of those periods where things are not working, but this will line up again. So it is just important to, kind of be autopsying your decisions and saying, what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? And how can I incrementally make things better? Okay, Scorpio natives, you guys are doing this full moon in your house of home, family, and actually we've been talking about it too as endings. So the base of your chart is that point where you decide to let go of something, which is perfect energy for what we're talking about here, which is letting go of limiting beliefs. And so this is where you have the opportunity to look at beliefs that you adopted in childhood and ask yourself, are these still beneficial for me? And, it reminds me of that very old story. I think I've told it on this channel once before, but it was something I read in Reader's Digest. Yes, that's how old I am. Reader's Digest. So it was that this man is watching his wife make a ham, and so she cuts the ends off her ham. She throws those in the trash, and she puts the ham into the pan, puts it in the oven, and he says, "Why do you cut the ends off your ham?" And she said, "Well, my mother always did it." So they go to the mom, and they say, "Mom, why do you cut the ends off your ham?" And she said, "Well, my mother always did it." So they go to Grandma and they say, "Grandma, why do you cut the ends off your ham?" And she says, "The pan's too small." So it is this idea that what was very useful for one person may get passed down and, not be so useful for you. So this is your opportunity to look at what you're doing and ask yourself, is this still valuable for me? At the same time, Jupiter is coming back into this house, bringing to you, information from family members, genealogy, relatives you haven't talked to in a while, all coming with their opinions and their advice and all of that. And you get to take what is useful for you, and you do not have to take all the rest. And so Jupiter is coming here to help you, to bring you the, perhaps advice you've heard over and over that you suddenly go, oh, now I know how that's helpful, or now I know how that is blocking me. Now, Mars is going to move from your house of career into your house of friendships, technology, and also money derived from career. So Mars is going to get helpful in the area of money. It is also, because it's shifting signs right now, could mean that a new job is coming to you, or that you have the opportunity to be seen by your managers where they start to say, uh-oh, we better do something or else we're going to lose this valuable employee. So there is some very positive energy happening connected to your career. Now, when it comes to relationships, Pluto is not making an aspect to Venus. However, Mars, the co-ruler of Scorpio, is. It is an out-of-sign conjunction, and this means that when it comes to relationships, perhaps it won't be the most obvious person in front of you. It's like somebody who's not quite your type, or somebody that maybe has asked you out a few times and you had said no, but now maybe you should try it out. So it also is about, when you are communicating with your current relationship, the love of your life, looking at how you guys may be getting into the same argument and seeing if there's a different route you can take. Again, it is about bringing in some different ingredients. Maybe that ingredient is seeing a counselor, or maybe coming to an astrologer and having a compatibility reading and finding out, how to communicate with each other. And right here, I have to say that myself and another astrologer, Tammy Magaro, and I are creating a whole series of books and reports, or whatever we're calling it, on communication using your Mercury. That is coming out pretty soon, so look for that, and there'll be more about that later. When it comes to home and family, of course, we just talked a lot about that. You are pulling energy from that Uranus in the 7th house as well as the Saturn. But with the moon there, that kind of, I don't want to say eclipses that, but it really outshines those planets because the moon is bright and it's lighting things up. But it is lighting up this idea that sometimes when it comes to beliefs about family and all that, you can possibly get dogmatic, or you could possibly not realize that you are caught in a family pattern. And so this will help you break that, break that chain, that block that's in your life. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Jupiter that is changing signs and going into a new house. And so we do have some major things happening with money for you. That could mean that you are having a whole new attitude about how you take care of your money. Perhaps you were keeping a written budget and you were doing really well. And then for a couple of months, you kind of fell off that routine and now you're back. But it also could be that some money opportunity that you used to have is coming back to you. I want to say that if that's the case, it could be temporary. Some, person wants you back at an old job. Maybe look at that job as a contract or side business rather than full-time, because it may not last. But overall, the fact that Jupiter is changing signs does mean that something quite noticeable and positive can happen. We like the energy of something in motion, and Jupiter definitely is. When it comes to your money from traditional investments or things like affiliate marketing or even network marketing or your own business, Jupiter is not making an aspect with Mercury, and therefore the timing's not really there. Now, this could be that you are receiving the contract, which is indicated by the Mercury in the house of contracts, that you're receiving the contract, but it's not yet signed, or, the check is still coming, or, the payment hasn't arrived or something like that. So I feel like all of this is going to line up pretty soon, but right now it's not showing the money in your hands right away. So if anything, you're working on the business, but because Jupiter is changing signs, I think it's more important to look at what's changing. And when it comes to investments, like, maybe you're big on oil, but the whole world wants to be off of oil. Or perhaps you are, now thinking, oh, maybe I should invest in cybersecurity or something. And by the way, I'm not suggesting particular investments for you guys. I am not an investment professional. I am just reading a chart here. And so, but this is saying, you might be looking at changing things up, and that will bring you more money down the road. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, while you are not doing that aspect of Jupiter and Mercury, you will have Mars in that house and you have Venus in that house. So again, we have this energy that sort of says that you're getting the promise of something is shifting at the job. Maybe they had this thing that said, we're not giving out any raises, and now things are happening, or more people are trying to hire and give out bonuses for that and stuff like that. So I see a money opportunity. I don't feel you're getting the cash in hand over the next 2 weeks, but you're very, very close. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the investments that take a lot of your time or energy to make happen, or they take a huge chunk of money, like buying a franchise or something like that, Jupiter is not making an aspect with Neptune, and soon they will be in different signs. Jupiter is leaving that house. So a lot of the opportunities are going to die down for a little while. These things will be back big time in 2022. But for now, the energy is put your focus on something else. Now, Jupiter will go into your 4th house, and so that could mean putting together a family business or even looking into real estate. So now there are some, of course, types of real estate that are considered really risky investments. This would be the more conservative or traditional ways of investing in real estate. So I feel like there's some opportunities there for you. Again, your whole chart is kind of saying that you're doing the legwork now, that the most of the profits are coming later. But specifically for risky investments, the timing is definitely off now. And so this is more of a time to investigate, gather resources, really stockpile your cash, because when the opportunity comes, you'll want to, have the resources to do it. Okay, Sagittarius natives, you guys are doing this full moon in your house of communications. And so everything that we're talking about looking at limiting beliefs, eliminating blocks and all of that, and that it's in your mind, is very highlighted for you. You have more access to making changes in your life than you've had in some time. And of course, this is because not only is the moon there in that house of communications, but also Jupiter is changing signs. So it is saying it's time for change. Now, this is the Jupiter going back to a sign it's been before. And so this is you revisiting things that you may have started already. Like maybe you had started a meditation practice or started kind of a mighty mornings, that where you did a little bit of exercise and, drink your smoothie and stuff like that to start the morning off right. And then you stop doing that. And so the Jupiter comes back to say, let's try this again. Let's see what works and what doesn't. Or perhaps you had been working on eliminating blocks and you made some headway, you got some chips in there, but now we need to demolish the block. This is a lot also about what kind of conversation you're having with yourself. And so the Jupiter is coming back to say, to kind of expand that idea. If you are saying good things about yourself to yourself, then you are, you're advocating for yourself, you are helping yourself move forward, you're giving yourself the best chance of success. But if you're berating yourself all the time, always picking on yourself, etc., then you're not really helping you. You're the one hamstringing you. And so this is your opportunity to clear that energy. Now, all this is happening while Mars is right at the zenith of your chart, right at the top, where it's very, very noticeable. And this means that you are first going from what you know to actual practical application. So that is taking what you've learned, maybe from productivity gurus or self-help people or, the meditation practice you're doing and applying that to your life. But it also makes you super noticeable if you're looking for relationships, if you want a new job. And this energy happens once every 2 years. I was going to say every year, but no, it's Mars. It happens once every 2 years. You have this couple weeks where, you can post your resume and have it be seen by people, where you can go online to a dating site and be found by, really interesting people. Now, of course, this is predicated on the idea of removing the blocks that you have. I mean, a lot of people do everything correct, but they have this, like their front door is sealed, and so they can't let anybody in because they're afraid of being seen or afraid of getting hurt or something like that. And once the block is removed, the amount of opportunities that come in, it's like they open the door and it just floods in because it's been waiting there for you. When we look at relationships for you, Jupiter's not making an aspect to Mercury, and that indicates that there's still going to be some timing that's off. I feel like this is stronger for getting career opportunities, and when it comes to relationships and meeting somebody new, it feels like you're still maybe focusing on somebody from the past, or that you are focusing on the pain from the past. And so you may take the whole 2 weeks to work on that and clear that, and then this energy will line up better. Now, when it comes to home and family, Jupiter is crossing that IC point, and so there is something that you are letting go of, and that could be that you are thinking about moving, that somebody in the household is going to be leaving, maybe they're going off to college, maybe a roommate is moving out. So And there's also some shifts with neighbors, and so something in the neighborhood could be changing. So we're seeing a lot of change at home, and a lot of this is going to, when the dust settles, is going to be positive. It's going to feel like a lot because Jupiter makes things very big, but Jupiter is your planet, and so if anybody can handle it, you can. So when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Saturn in your house of communication. I know, I say that every time. Saturn is a slow-moving planet, and so it is always, it's not always, it's going to be there for yet another while. So let's just say for the foreseeable future, Saturn takes 2.5 years approximately to go through a sign, and you're about a year in. So you still have lots of time to perfect your abilities at communication, both outward and inward, as well as getting financial contracts in place, to find opportunities to sell things, to hone your sales skills, etc. So now with the moon there, though, now it's really highlighted, and there are some money opportunities for you because there's this big spotlight on it. And so now things that you thought, oh, well, maybe that'll bring me some money eventually, or maybe that's money for somebody else, now you see you can gain some prosperity by doing this, or talking about it, or writing about it, or teaching about it, or something like that. Now, when it comes to your investments, and these will be the traditional investments or your own business, while the moon is not making an aspect to Saturn, they are in the same sign, they're in the same house, and so they're getting kind of cozy together. And so there is some profits that can be made. I believe those profits will come outside of this 2-week period. So I think that basically the money you're making is about the same, and then it seems to grow after, when we get outside of this period. So that is, move forward on some opportunities because you'll get the profits later. When it comes to money derived from career, it's kind of a similar story. You're showing some really good energy for getting a new job or signing a new contract or things like that, but the profits are coming later because Venus is not making an aspect with that Saturn. So these energies will line up in the future. Right now, you look like you're making about the same as usual. And then the story continues the same way when we look at risky investments. And of course, these are more unconventional investments, things like NFTs or Bitcoin or things that are highly leveraged like commodities. There's no aspect going on between Mars and Saturn. And so again, this is more about setting yourself up to make the profits later. Things will line up in the future, but right now, things are just about doing the work, doing the prep, getting the knowledge so that you can do these things later. There's nothing here that says jump into something. It is to take slow, cautious, very precise steps, and then the benefits come later. Now, that all said, because the Sun and Mars are up in your house of contracts, you may have the contract on your desk at this time. And so this is something that you want to look over very, very carefully before you move forward. You may want to get some professional assistance on this contract, even if it's a simple or what you think is a boilerplate contract. Because the Sun is lighting things up, that's wonderful. Love that energy. But because the other planets aren't lining up to bring you the actual profits, that's got me concerned that there's something in the contract that could be renegotiated more to your benefit. Okay, Capricorn natives, you guys are doing this full moon in your house of money. And so this is where you are looking at attitudes or beliefs that are holding you back. And that is, looking at what you believe you deserve in the area of money, what you believe is possible for you, or how you've associated how much you have to work with making more money, or maybe fears you have about creating passive income sources. There was a book called, I think it was The Upper Limit, by Gay Hendricks. I think, again, I'm going to put a link in the description box, but It was about how we have kind of a thermometer inside of us that sets a limit, and as we push against that, we feel uncomfortable, and therefore we then go back into our smaller state. Of course, once you break through, it doesn't matter if you go down again, because you will always return to the highest level that you can. But it reminds me of a client that I had who clearly could make easily in her profession $100,000 a year, but she was stuck around $35,000, but her mindset was that she couldn't even picture herself making $60,000. She couldn't picture herself going even beyond that. So how could she possibly dream of $100,000? And so that's where the uncomfortableness of it blocked her. Now, of course, Jupiter is going to go back into your second house, bringing you so many opportunities, some of which you passed up in the past. So that is a job that you had considered, or maybe you thought had not considered you, suddenly calls and you get an interview, or some business opportunity comes around again, perhaps a friend who had talked about doing a business now is really ready to do it. So the Jupiter could bring back some opportunities. Now, of course, we had talked in the beginning in the introduction how Jupiter expands everything. So there is going to be this really strong desire to spend. And so as you are feeling this, remember that this is a temporary aspect. If you suddenly feel this overwhelming desire to go get the most expensive car you can think of, and you say to yourself, well, it must be so because I was thinking about this before. Nope, this is just Jupiter retrograde. Jupiter is going to go forward again, and next year it's going to be in a different house. So don't, get caught up in this idea that you have to spend a lot of money right now. Stick to your budget, because you're going to have some big money opportunities in the future, but you're going to need some resources to do it. Now, Mars is moving out of your house of passive income sources and into your house of contracts. And so while you might be sad that it's leaving the passive income house, it is a sign that if you are working to pull some passive income in by getting, affiliate links in place or building a website or any of these things, you have a few days to get that project finished. So this doesn't mean that it's done forever. It's just, this is a time where you have a lot of energy to do it. And then Mars goes into this house of contracts where you may receive a contract of some sort. It is also about education. So you might at that point have the website done, but now you need to learn some things about the profession you're getting into or the business you're starting. And so this is where you can get more education. Now, when it comes to relationships, you're not doing an aspect between Saturn and Moon. However, they are in the same sign, in the same house. And so there's some compatibility going on. It looks like the focus is so much around money and finances that you're kind of putting relationships on the back burner. But also what I think is going on here is that you're tentatively taking steps forward, you're moving kind of slowly. I think that that's perfectly okay because this aspect hasn't lined up yet. And so, you might be texting or talking on the phone, but you haven't actually met yet, or you've met once or twice, but it's slow going. So it's good energy, it's just not great energy right now. When it comes to home and family, something is changing because Mars is changing signs. Now, this does happen every 2 months, so this is not something super extraordinary. It's not like, it's probably not that you're moving, but maybe that you're moving some furniture, or, that you are doing some small renovations in the house, or that you are, perhaps kind of looking for some vacation property or something like that. Maybe one of the kids will be going off to school in a month or so, and so you're thinking about all the things you could do with their bedroom, that sort of thing. So the energy is shifting. It's just not this huge shift, but it's enough that's noticeable. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money from Uranus in your house of risky investments and creativity, and also that Saturn that is in your house of money. That's that slow growth wealth aspect. So we do expect you to be increasing your network's worth, So I do expect that you will be increasing your net worth over a period of time, probably the next year and a half for sure, and then longer if you set a good structure in place. Now, the moon is there, and that is shining a spotlight on it, saying where money is dribbling away, like running out of your pocket, or where you are looking at an income source and realizing that maybe it's a little bit more temporary than you had hoped. So the moon is there to give you a warning that something could change. But the Saturn there, with Saturn going through this house, the idea is to create security by having your emergency fund in place, paying down debt, really having a solid foundation. And that's why you have Saturn going through this house for such a long period of time, so that you can do this. So I feel like, you're going to get a little warning here of something ahead, and I think you're completely prepared and you can handle it. Now, when it comes to your money from passive income sources like traditional investments or your own business, you have a good house with Sun and Mars there, but the Sun is not making an aspect to Uranus and the Sun is not making an aspect to Saturn. So the profits are coming later. So I think you're making about the same as usual. I think that you are seeing opportunities clearly, but the paycheck is just coming later. When it comes to money derived from career, there's no aspect happening. Pluto is not talking to Saturn or Uranus, and Mars is not talking to Saturn or Uranus. So it's possible you're in a career that you're just at the top. You cannot make any more money, or that there is some sort of, block on giving employees more money. I feel like you're underpaid. And so the problem is that your only solution would be to change careers, or at least change companies. And right now you may not be feeling ready to do that. In fact, because of the way this chart is, I think a secondary source of income, a passive source of income, or your side business is your best way to make more money, because you're not showing that right directly from your career. When it comes to riskier investments, and these are the things that are big, like buying a franchise, or something that takes a really long time, like writing a novel and hoping it becomes a bestseller, Venus is not doing an aspect with Uranus, and so there's more of a sense that right now you're focused on the education, learning how to do it, practicing your craft. Maybe you are creating something, some art or music or something like that, and getting ready to launch, but the paycheck's not quite here yet. So be careful about signing contracts. The Venus is going through your house of contracts, and Mars will be there soon, and that can make you a little impulsive about signing a contract. You just want to get it done, but the energy's not lining up right now, so certainly try to stall. Say you want your attorney to look it over. Say you want your uncle to look it over first. Stall a little bit until this energy lines up. Okay, Aquarius natives, this is your full moon because it's in Aquarius, and so what it's doing is it's lighting you up. And so great for getting noticed, great for being noticed for jobs or relationships or things like that. But it also is a reminder that you are creating your life. You are co-creating with the universe, and so how you're designing your life is how it is. So if you want to know, like a predictor for life is, what did you do today? If you did, things that pushed you, if you did things that put you outside of your comfort zone, if you took those emotional risks, then you have this bright future ahead. But if you did exactly what you did yesterday, which was the same as you did before, I can tell you your future is going to be the same as today. I know that was very obvious, but this is your opportunity, a once a year opportunity to make a change, and you have now everything lined up to help you make that change. So that's why I wanted you to make that change. So, and then of course, Jupiter is going back into your sign. So that is all of the luck and expansion that Jupiter does, all the knowledge it brings, and that energy of the spiritual help all comes to you again, and you get that until the end of the year. So again, this is like looking at yourself and saying, what can I change on a daily basis that is going to make my life better? And that's what the point of having this moon in that house is. Now, Mars is also changing signs, and so it's moving from your house of relationships into your house of resources. So yay to that too. So you may shift your focus from having a love relationship to finding a business partner, or looking at traditional investments, or finding passive income sources. So you're going to have a couple of months of this energy, and then after that it'll be 2 years before it comes around again. So you want to spend that couple of months really focused on how you can generate some passive income sources for yourself, because everything will be helping you. Like if you're in harmony with the energy, as you would be if you were taking action about this, then things can really open up for you. Now, when it comes to relationships, you do have an extraordinary amount of energy, because you've got the sun moon right on that ascendant descendant line. And so it's very easy to see you, to spot you. You put your profile up and people email you. You go to a place and people talk to you. And so that energy is really good. Uranus is not making an aspect to that sun, nor is Saturn. And so the timing's still going to feel a little off. And I think with a Venus in the house of intimacy, with Mars going in there, what can happen is that you can meet somebody, get intimate very, very quickly, and then kind of, like come apart because maybe you feel uncomfortable, maybe you're not sure if they're the right person, you just didn't get to know them. And so if at all possible, because you're going to meet somebody where the chemistry is unmistakable, where there is a chart connection, but you have to build this more slowly than that. And so if you meet somebody and you feel that electricity, do that more romantic movie part where, the two people are kind of all tantalizing each other versus the falling into bed overnight type of thing. When it comes to home and family, you are doing that Venus energy in that house of resources. So it's like the family's coming together to pool resources to help each other. And so that could be, that your nephew or niece knows how to build a website or do social media, and so they can help you with that. Or your aunt or uncle really knows how to pick stocks, and so they can help you with that. So it is time to look at the family tree and say, where can I find some benefits? Of course, this may be discussions with your siblings or your family about legacies in the family heirlooms, or, grandma has a lot of property and she's starting to divvy it out now. So stuff like that can happen. So when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Neptune, as well as the Jupiter that is going to go from your second house into your first house, which says that more money can be made by promoting yourself, by telling people that you are taking the responsibility to take charge, that your name is on this, that you're the person that designed it or led the team or something like that. So for the next few months, this is the way to gain money opportunities. And by the way, money opportunities from your past are probably on their way. And that is as Jupiter backs up into your own sign, then something that you felt was this opportunity that you missed, like it was a job opportunity, an opening, but you didn't apply for it. Now you can because it's open again. Or your friend said, hey, do you want to get into a business together? And you said no. Now you have an opportunity again. So opportunities are coming around again for you. When it comes to income from traditional investments or more passive income sources like affiliate marketing, network marketing, royalties, things like that, or your own business, you're doing some excellent energy. Venus and Mars are going to be in that house, which does say there's some profits to be made, as well as Mercury is making a trine to Neptune. And so everything is lining up for you to make some profits. And that means that you can make some extraordinary business choices, connect with the right people, find an influencer who uses your products and tells everybody, or your aunt and uncle who do the investing, they give you a few stock tips and that really boosts your portfolio. It's a different story when we look at money derived from career, because not only is Jupiter leaving that same sign, it is also leaving that house of money. And so therefore, there's no connection right now between Jupiter and Neptune. Now, you had it for a little bit, and so that might have given you the bump up already. Otherwise, what we're looking at is just promises, and those promises could extend all the way out to December or even the next year. In the next year, things will be much better, but for the next 6 months, gaining more money from your job is going to be difficult. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, and money to get going, you are doing a trine between Mercury and Neptune. And this means that there are some opportunities. And it's interesting because with the Venus and Mars going through your house of resources, it means you could get funding, you could get some tax breaks, you could find that there's some sort of grant for what you're doing. There is some possibilities of some free money or resources to get your business going. So if it's some sort of risky investment, you can find people to guide you through at this time because things are lining up. And so this is where you do want to talk to, like email the guy who is doing the videos on the NFTs, if that's what you're interested in, and see if they have a mentorship program or see if they'll just give you 5 minutes so you can ask questions. But overall, I do see some real benefits for you in this area, so you want to explore those more unconventional investments. Okay, Pisces natives, you guys are doing this full moon in your hidden house. This is the house of psychic ability, your shadow self, your artistic side, the side of you that is so connected to the universe and all that. You're not really sure where you end and the universe begins. And so this is highlighting your ability to be connected to everything. It is also for you to recognize where you're having no boundaries. And so that it is sometimes you want to be connected to everything and sometimes it's not a good idea. So this is how this really manifests in this energy where you're trying to break bad habits or have a breakthrough and let go of some negative thinking, is that if you have no boundaries, you can pick up the energies from everyone around you who may not be on the same spiritual journey as you, who may be having a really tough time, and you can start to identify that negative energy as your own. So when you're doing this energy over the next 2 weeks, I would really recommend visualizing yourself in protection, whether that is white light or a golden light, or that you have a shield, or you're surrounded in mirrors so people just get their own reflection. Additionally, you may want to smudge the house. You might, or do some sort of space clearing. I have some instructions on how to do that on another website, on a website of mine called How to Smudge. I'll put a link to that in the description so you can find that. Now, with all of this stuff going on, there's a great deal of focus on clearing out things, and this could be clearing out clutter, clearing out the negative thinking, getting your diet into a more healthy state, prioritizing sleep. And here comes Jupiter crossing back into your hidden house to help you out. It'll bring you more connections with the universe, your guardian angel, your guides, as well as giving you the opportunity to really expand the positives. Now, Jupiter expands everything. So if you are caught up in, addictions or negative thinking or things like that, Jupiter can expand those. That's why it's very important that you are kind to yourself, that you are good to yourself, and that you take care of your body, because those things with Jupiter there, it will expand it. And so you can have the healing or you can be more stuck. Now, interestingly, with Mars changing signs, it's going into your house of relationships. So just when you need to make a connection with somebody who might be the love of your life, or somebody who's going to heal you or be your friend or a helper, here comes Mars to light that up and help you out. So I do feel there is some people, actual people, not just guardian angels and things like that, but actual people coming to help you. And so the cycle would be that you define what kind of help you want and then see who appears. When it comes to relationships, you have some of the best energy you've had all year, and that is the Venus and Mars are there, the Jupiter is crossing that line, Mercury is making a trine to Neptune. I mean, it's like a cornucopia of good energy. And so this means you can meet somebody who's quite significant in your life or becomes the love of your life. You can meet new friends, you can meet helpful people, you can meet people who are influencers who will promote your business. So you have so many opportunities. It's just a 2-week period though. And so it's very important that you reach out and connect, or at least make yourself available so people can find you. You also have really positive energy around home and family. Again, this is connected to all of this, that strangers are coming in and they're turning into friends. People are, asking you what you need and being helpful. And this is the same for family members. They are becoming helpful too, even if they haven't been in the past. Like your kids are emptying the dishwasher and stuff. I mean, it's might be a temporary aspect, but it's quite enjoyable. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Mars, which is in the 6th house of routines and work and all of that, transiting into that 7th house of connections and partnerships. Now, when Mars changes signs, which it does every couple of months, then some opportunity presents itself, which means in your life, there are always some opportunities. And I will tell you, not every sign gets that. Some signs have to wait for years to get an opportunity, but you don't. So now another opportunity is going to present itself, and it's there for the taking. And this comes in the form of some person who is saying to you, hey, I know how to do this, or I can do it with you. We can do it together and explore it together. So some opportunity in a financial nature is coming. When it comes to passive income sources that are more traditional, like stocks or bonds, but also having your own business or a family business, Venus is making an out-of-sign conjunction with Mars, which means that you have great energy, but it's not obvious energy. And this we talked about in the introduction. So if you didn't listen to that part, you might want to go back and hear that part. But this is about being mindful enough to see an opportunity that other people may not see. This is the, discovering the Velcro because there's some sort of plant stuck in your sock, rather than the obvious of just, how do I invent Velcro? So this is looking at things and, maybe saying I need a solution to a problem, and then looking at things and turning them upside down and turning them inside out to see if they might be the solution. So I do see more money coming to you, but it's going to take some mindfulness to spot the opportunity. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, this is not as strong energy. So what's happening here is Mars is changing signs, so your focus seems to be going towards other people and less on your job. Plus, Mars is not making an aspect with Saturn at this time. Saturn is buried in your 12th house, so it's like you're not seen. And now that Mars is leaving your house of work, it's like you're not there at all. Like maybe you're still working at home, but everybody else is working at the office. And if that's the case, you're going to have to, really announce yourself so that you can be seen in the future. But right now, asking for a raise, it's not going to get you very far. So, if you really want more money from your conventional job, you probably need to get a different job because it's not coming from this one. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are like when you start a business, it takes a really long time to get going, or you're doing a YouTube channel and it just takes forever to get things going. So you are doing some interesting energy. So the moon is making an out of sign in conjunct with that Mars, which means that as you know, with the out of sign aspects, that something is not obvious. Now, the moon is in the 12th house, so this is something that could come through meditation or prayer, or as you are doing your magical life, as you are mindfully, kneading bread or mowing the lawn or something. Then the universe opens up and gives you the message, and then you'll be able to spot what this investment is, or how to negotiate it properly, or how to profit from it. So all of this is very much about slowing down enough so you can hear the messages from the universe, because you're doing a great aspect, but since it's out of sign, it's just not obvious. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe and stay tuned, because LaRue wants to say hi.